All right. Again, welcome back to another recording of Pencil Leadership. I'm Chris Anderson, your host, and guide through the conversation. I'm with you all listening in, just here to learn and grow and connect with our guests. And today we have another special one. Lance Graulich. Did I pronounce that right, Lance?
Close enough. Graulich is it.
Graulich. Okay. He is actually the founder, CEO of Ion Franchising, which is an industry-leading franchise consulting and development group. And he represents over 500 franchise brands and business opportunities within 90 different categories. But on top of that, he has years, multiple decades of experience, but this is really cool. Stuck out to me. He actually helps prospective entrepreneurs find their perfect franchise for free, I believe, which is just an amazing service to offer. So, Lance, welcome to Pencil Leadership. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited to dive into this franchise topic and what that looks like, how to get involved and find the right franchises. But before we kind of get into those steps, what got you into the whole franchise field, the area of franchising?
My favorite question. So, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, and, for your listeners and viewers, one of the oldest questions out there is, how do people become entrepreneurs? And I thought I was going to work for my dad, who had, his company was the largest over-the-counter trading house on Wall Street. I grew up in New York. Dad worked on Wall Street. Literally. And I thought I was going to follow him into the business. Got my economics degree. Realized when I was out of college, I don't really want to do this. I'm an entrepreneur like my grandfathers. I'm going to go spread my wings and do my thing. And I joined a TGI Fridays franchise and with a relative. And we built that. I worked for him. I learned a lot from him. And that became a $225 million a year business in the late 80s. Late 80s. Yes, I'm old. I have a lot of gray hair. It looks dark today, which is good, but 54 now. So bottom line is, I knew at a very young age, I was an entrepreneur at a very young age of probably 14 when I did my first thing. And, I wanted to have a real job, a W-2 job, and work for dad. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I need to get out there and do it. So franchising, when I got with TGI Fridays, I realized, this is a pretty cool thing. They show you the whole system. You just have to perform within this system and hopefully outperform. Yeah. And I did. And years later, I was a franchisee and partner in a growing Krispy Kreme franchise. We had the state of Nevada and Utah. I did Wingstop. I was president of the Franchise Advisory Council for Wingstop. So you'll see a lot of franchising in my history. And then I was like, I need to show people about this. I need to teach people about this. And as you know, Chris, Google was just sort of invented, or the internet was invented, 12 years ago or so. Yeah. And prior to that, franchising was only known on this sort of circuit where people would do, let's just say, shows around the country. It would be franchise shows. People would go.
Oh, just a second, Lance. I'm going to pause you right there.
There was a big fat magazine.
You're cutting in and out on it, Lance. I'm going to just pause real quick so we don't miss what you're saying.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I just want to make sure we get a lot of good insight coming. I can feel it, so I don't want to miss out. But I think you're back.
Okay.
There we go.
So what I was saying is, in the old days of franchising, it was learning about franchises at franchise shows throughout the country, or it was getting a big fat book on franchising, either from a store or mail order. And it was a big fat book that told you all about franchise opportunities. Well, with the internet, it's changed obviously dramatically, and franchise consulting or franchise brokerages have flourished and popped up. And right now I probably represent more franchise brands than anybody in the US. And my 500 brands has grown to well over 600 at this point.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That's pretty amazing. And so I guess I never really thought how many possibilities there were for franchising out there. I mean, I guess it makes sense if you think about all the different companies that you could franchise. So do you notice, like, are there different categories within franchising operations that are easier to get into than others, or?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of misconceptions about franchising.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that franchising is all about, you have to be a millionaire,
Mm-hmm.
and people know about all the retail restaurant franchises like McDonald's and Burger King because they're
Yeah.
quite prominent on every street corner in America. But the reality is, you don't have to be a millionaire to own most franchises, most franchise brands. Anybody can own a franchise. And what I do is for free, like you said at the top of the show, I'll find you a franchise for free. I get paid by the brands. I have negotiated commissions or success fees. But to fully answer what you were getting at, I have about 23 high-level categories, if you will, of franchises. Food and beverage is a very popular category. Personal care services, whether it's massage concepts or hair salons or nail salons, whatever it might be. Senior services, kid-related franchises, pet-related franchises, home improvement. There are franchises in every imaginable category. And what franchising does is really creates the system for people to be successful, whether you had experience in that area or not. And it works. And, I can tell you a little bit later in this call to, how you go about sort of validating and picking the right franchise. But there is definitely a system for me to show people the right franchises for them.
Okay. And with that, I guess, and Mike, and I could be way off because I'm not educated in franchising, but I guess the question I'm trying to get out is the investment is there always an investment? I'm guessing it depends on the percentage that you have to put down. Is that kind of how that works?
So let me lay that out.
Yeah.
So I have quite a few franchise brands that are under $75,000, under $100,000, under $150,000. The Small Business Administration loves to fund franchises. Tons of SBA loans available through all these different banks across the country. I have a ton of franchise lending options for you. Typically, you're going to put down, it could be as little as 15%, but most of the time I tell people, be prepared for a 25% down payment. $150,000 express loan is very popular with the SBA. So almost anybody in America, if they wanted to, can get into a franchise. And here's the reason, Chris, why franchising is so successful. There are plenty of people, what percentage of America, I don't know, that create their own companies, like whether it's Bill Gates or I think of tech companies, people that have created their own companies, they had a burning desire to give birth to a brand or a concept. Well, the large majority of America does not have an idea in mind. They just know that they want to be their own boss for whatever reason, whatever crazy reason that is. And franchising is the absolute best way, in my opinion, to get into that business with the least amount of risk. And what I was alluding to earlier, there's a whole validation process. It's like dating. It's like a coffee date. I set you up on a coffee date or a blind date with a brand. And if you like them, you go to the second date. Eventually you meet the corporate team, or what I call meet the parents. And eventually you actually talk to existing franchisees and feel out whether you fit into this culture, into this environment, and whether or not you want to be part of that particular brand. And, if you choose to, you've done your due diligence, you've done your homework, you've figured out what kind of money you can make, you've developed a business plan that you'll get help with along the way. And it's a pretty clear profit path. There are brands that I have that are $68,000 home-based brands that people can net $400,000 or $500,000 a year.
Wow.
Or more. That's a brand that people can net $1 million a year. I don't want to scare people away because they'll be like, "Oh, this guy's crazy." This is true. It's absolutely true.
Okay, so when you become a franchisee, right? That's the word. What does that look? You have to be there still, right, in the physical place, or do you allow your managers to do, like, how does that work? Because I know people sometimes franchise multiple locations.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great question. In some franchise brands, I give you an example. Fast Signs. A lot of people know that.
Okay.
There's a lot of Fast Signs all over America. It's one of our hot brands. It's a retail sign graphics marketing company, and they want you to be a hands-on, full-time owner-operator.
Gotcha.
They don't check your schedule. They just want to know that you, the prospective franchisee that's talking to them, is going to commit to being there, because they've had much more success with people that are hand owners versus people that hire just any manager to run their baby, so to speak. So that's an example of what a brand that wants you to be an owner operator. There are plenty of other brands. I have a hair salon chain called Sharky's that's successful. I've done business with. And Sharky's is thrilled to have investor types that just want to be absentee or semi-absentee owner. They certainly don't have to know how to cut hair, but really don't have to be there, because Sharky's has a great system. Remember, technology is plentiful these days, where they can teach people how to do everything that needs to be done and follow a system.
Interesting. So outside of the initial, like, the loan for the actual franchise itself, as far as investment goes, is that kind of the only investment besides time? Is that like kind of the big investment is for the franchise itself, and then the time you have to put into helping it grow and succeed?
Well, there's always time. I mean, I'm a control freak myself. So in any franchise I was involved with, I have to be there, 7 days a week in the beginning until I feel it's comfortable. And then I kind of let it go a little bit.
Yeah.
But, as far as fees, there's always a franchise fee for any franchise, which is a one-time fee that you're paying up front that kind of gives you the keys to the kingdom for training and everything. Some brands invest millions of dollars in technology, so they get to recoup a little bit of that on the franchise fee. And then the royalty is really how the brands make money. The franchise fee isn't necessarily a profit center. It's kind of the cost of doing business for them to set you up. The royalty is the ongoing fee that could be 4%, 5%, 6%. It just depends on the brand, that is collected basically on your sales, on your net sales.
Okay.
And that's how they make money. But they're also supporting you for life, and they need you to do well. There are two legal aspects to setting up franchises. It's the franchise disclosure document, the franchise agreement. Then, of course, the third being the operations manual that you get. But in the franchise disclosure document, there's all kinds of good information disclosed, so people can be very well aware of what they're getting into. But, it might show an earnings claim and what franchisees, what the sales are, average franchise brands. But you also have that ability to validate that with existing franchisees. Good franchisors will just hand you a list of their franchisees, and you'll call them and say, yeah, I'm thinking about owning this franchise like you did. Tell me how you started. Tell me, would you do it again? What kind of money do you make? What's the ramp up period? And that's what we call validation.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's possible to become a franchisee for multiple different brands and kind of create these different passive streams. It's a viable option.
I have multiple friends that many years later own multiple restaurant franchise brands in different states. Everybody starts differently. At the end of the day, the brand just wants to know that you're going to run their brand properly. Yeah. So, it's like anything. It all starts with one thing. You can't buy your mansion, when you're fresh out of college. Generally, it starts with a condo or renting a place or whatever it might be. You start small and you plan for your dream business versus your starter business, if you will. So there's a lot of different strategies as to how to do that. But look, on my website, ionfranchising.com, I do have a free assessment for anybody interested in franchise opportunities. You take that assessment and it helps me understand your mindset, skill set, experiences, your comfort zone. And that, in addition to all kinds of basic questions I ask, what is your investment level? What do you like? What do you not like? Do you have an industry interest? Or do you, some people tell me, believe it or not, Chris, I don't want to do a restaurant, or I do want to do a restaurant. So I also ask people, are you interested in me selecting what I think could be best for you? And a lot of people say, well, yes, you're the expert. Tell me what I should be doing. And sometimes I surprise the heck out of them with things that they love and want to go do.
Cool. No, that's really interesting, because I think as entrepreneurs, like, we want that freedom, and we want to be able to, have our own schedule, and time and financial, and I think the multiple streams of income doing different things is the way to do it. So, I mean, you got obviously like real estate investments, things like that. And I would say franchising is an investment. I think you're investing into this brand, and then you're kind of helping it grow and be successful, and then you'll reap kind of the passive results.
You hit something very important right there. What a lot of people don't understand is, just like buying a house or investing in real estate, there's not only the cash flow, but there's the equity you're building while you own it. And it's the same thing in the franchise world. There are very low cost franchises, well under $100,000, that have been sold years later for $1 million, $1.5 million.
Wow. So you can sell your like the part of the brand, that franchise you own, you can sell that specific store or brick and mortar.
100%.
Oh, okay.
And that is one of the most powerful things about franchise brands, is the ease of exit. There is a secondary market out there. There's brokers all over the universe that will resell franchises. Huh. And you're typically, as a franchise owner, as a franchisee, you're typically worth 3 to 5 times cash flow. The brands I've sold over the years, 4.5 times cash flow. The better the brand, typically the more you're going to sell it for.
Right.
But I have plenty of absentee options or semi-absentee options. I have a medical brand. I'm not going to say the name of it. It's available in many states. You can do it I have a buddy of mine that just bought multiple territories. He lives in one state, and 3 states over is where he bought this franchise. It's a 1 day a week business. 1 day a week medical business.
What?
With incredible numbers. So you have lots of listeners that probably won't mind being active owners, but if you're looking for something that is something you really don't have a lot of work in, or the company, I have several brands the company can manage, the franchisor, who are experts, obviously. In most cases, they're running corporate stores as well. They can run your stores for you if you're a busy individual that simply is looking for that investment. And again, look, the S&P 500 stock market, et cetera, historically 10% year over year returns. But here you have potentially write-offs, you have equity you're building, you have cash flow each year, your dividends, so to speak. So depending on your circumstances, there are definitely multiple franchises that I have for you.
Interesting. This is all fascinating. I think it's I don't know. I guess I just don't hear about franchising as often as you hear about real estate or, just starting your own business, things like that.
Well, guess what? You're right, Chris. I mean, look, I'm a Wall Street guy, although one of my grandfathers was a big real estate attorney in Brooklyn and owned plenty of buildings. But, it's always Wall Street and real estate first, typically. And then the third piece of this pie is typically business, your business. Are you going to be a real estate investor? I mean, owning real estate is one thing, and potentially being an investor, but owning a business is typically the third component, or starting a business. And there's quite a few people that I know that do all three. So franchising fits perfectly within that, the business
portfolio, and yeah.
Absolutely it does.
That's really neat. So are there anything like people need to have specifically to be a good franchisee? Like what makes, like, I'm sure some people just don't work out as being in a franchise, but go into that for me.
Yeah. It's like a lot of things. I really believe strongly that anybody that wants to be their own boss can be their own boss. But there are very bright people. I'll tell you a story. I had a CPA, an accountant, that got to me recently that was looking at franchise opportunities. And quite honestly, he was an ass. And he would not fit into the culture of any franchise. He had an attitude about him. Franchising is a two-way street.
Yeah.
Just like any relationship. they have to like you and you have to like them. And he had the attitude of, well, I have the money and I own shopping centers and I just need some great franchise brands to fill my shopping centers and I'd like to own them. Fantastic. But, he was late to meetings. He interrupted. He didn't seem to care. He had too much arrogance or attitude about him. And he was actually kicked out of the system for one brand that he was really excited about. And the VP of franchise development called me and said, yeah, we gotta kick him to the curb here. This isn't going to work out. He doesn't fit our culture. It's not about how much money you have. You have to, in franchising, you have to fit in the culture and this sort of family feel, if you will. And every franchise brand is a little bit different. And we can find a culture for you that, where you'll fit. And if you're not that, if you're not a great person and maybe your spouse is the better person to be the front person on the franchise. But at the end of the day, not anybody can get into a franchise. It's not just all about money.
That's good to know. Yeah, I think sometimes maybe that hinders people from real estate and even from franchising. Like, I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest into this business, and so it stops people from even trying. And it sounds like that's not the case.
No, and look, I have so many low cost franchises and so many lending options. I'm working with a gentleman that's a diesel mechanic right now, and he makes a great living, but he's tired of working for somebody else. He would like to see what else is out there, what he could do. And, we're in the early stages. It might take 6 months. It might take, 2 years. But what I do is kind of give people the education on what is out there for them. And again, I'm just a free resource. Any great entrepreneur out there will tell you, if you want to learn, sure, you can do Google searches, but at some point align yourself with a mentor, resource up, as one of my friends always said.
Yes.
Figure it out. People are joining masterminds left and right these days.
Yeah.
I can help you with anything with franchising or business launches. It's what I do.
That's pretty good. So you mentioned right there about the kind of the process. So it can be a lengthy process to find a franchise and become a franchise owner.
My record to date is about 5 weeks.
Oh, wow. So maybe not that long.
From the first phone call to when this lady, Beverly, who was awesome, became a franchisee of a brand. But it could be 90 days, could be 120 days. There is a process to it. There's a lot to it. You can get married a lot quicker.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So the process, it varies, but our franchises, if you're coming to be a franchise owner, are the majority of them new being built, like they're looking for someone to take over a new brick and mortar being built, or filling a spot? Do you see more percentage on one or the other?
Well, if you're talking about resales, I mean, we do quite a bit of resales, which are existing franchise brands that owners are either retiring or selling for one reason or another. People move and sell their business. Okay. Most of what we do is the new, and it's not necessarily brick and mortar. We have a lot of home-based businesses, that are franchises. A franchise is certainly a system with set procedures and a history of success and an obvious profit path, which is why people are lined up to buy certain franchises, because they want a piece of that action, and they can obviously see a clear return on investment. But there are, because of technology, when that really came about 12 years ago, whatever we've sort of agreed the timeline was on that, it's really, I have a company called 5-Star Bath Solutions. And when I was talking to their CEO, they do bathroom remodels and they do an incredible job. They're doing fantastic. And it's really a home-based business. And I said to him, so what kind of company do you believe to be? I mean, you're in the home improvement market. Because we're a technology company. We're a technology company. We'll get, referrals. We'll get clients for our franchisees. And that's what it's all about is franchisors helping franchisees with the system. I have a brand called College Hunks Hauling Junk and Moving. Moving and junk hauling company. Yeah. A lot of people know them. Cool brand, a lot of fun commercials and things they do out there. I think last I heard, about 80% of their clientele is brought to their franchisees. An average franchisee gets 80% of their business from a combination of the call center or the website. I mean, when people are moving, they typically want to pick up the phone. Chris, I need a truck tomorrow. Can you get it here? So, it's look, the old expression, being in business for yourself but not by yourself, is really what franchising is all about. And the other one is that's my favorite. It's all about modeling success. Yeah. Why create your own brand and worry about it being successful and not understanding every facet of it when you can jump into a franchise and it's all laid out for you?
That's what I was going to ask. That's a good, because I think of my business and all that I have to do, all the hats I have to wear in it, just being in the early stages still. So when you hop into a franchise position, like does the corporate kind of do the marketing for your branch, for your store as well? Do you have to do the marketing? I mean, probably locally you do some marketing, but like,
yes,
generically, do they cover like the SEO on the websites and things like that? And
no, okay. the marketing at a high level, everything's covered by the franchisor. They have a plan for everything. So depending on what franchise brand you join, whether there are 3 locations or 3,000 locations, it could be quite different. And some people like joining the brand that has 3,000 locations. Some people rather work with the founder in the smaller locations. So there, in most cases, there's a little more flexibility at the smaller brands with how things get done. But it just varies. But everything is laid out in the operations manual, marketing guidelines, and what have you. So it just depends on the brand.
I gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, I just was curious, like as a franchise owner, if you have to wear the marketing hat and all the customer service hat as well.
They will absolutely help you with all of it. It just depends on how much they're pulling the trigger and you're just paying for that marketing. Local SEO, they're going to handle for you because they obviously want you to be found.
Yeah.
So the good news is they really hold all the tools that you'd ever need. But look, one of my favorite stories ever on the franchisor-franchisee relationship is McDonald's. Yeah. The filet-O-Fish, the Big Mac, they were invented by franchisees. So at some point, the sum of the parts, so to speak, is this whole big brain known as this franchise community you have, not just the franchisees, but the corporate stores. You come together and come up with new items. And it worked well with McDonald's, right, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a neat. It's just a cool structure and capabilities, I think, is.
It really is. And again, there's a lot of misconceptions and in most cases, people just don't understand. It seems untouchable to a lot of people.
Yeah. Cause I mean, the McDonald's one, I mean, you hear like, oh, you have to have $1 million to do a McDonald's store and all that. I'm like, well,
and McDonald's isn't even the best return on investment today. If you bought the real estate 30 years ago, it's fantastic. But there are plenty. It's capital intense, and there's plenty of other brands out there you can get a higher ROI than McDonald's.
That's awesome. Yeah. So much to learn. But so I guess the next steps, I mean, for people to take if they're considering being a franchise owner, would be one, come do your free resource to see where you fit best at.
Yep.
And then what's next? I mean, you obviously have system consulting to walk them through the process, but
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you would like to do the free online assessment at my website, ionfranchising.com. So that's ionfranchising.com. I'll call you upon receiving that, or someone from my team will. You'll eventually get to me, and we'll have a call to discuss your goals and objectives, not just yours, but your spouse as well. So that's the fun part. I love to get the family involved as needed. Sometimes that's not necessary. And if you're a business owner now and you've ever thought about growing and scaling your business and weren't sure how, franchising is an amazing way as you become the franchisor and you can grow and scale through franchising. Our team does that as well. Unbelievable the amount of wealth to be built when you could sell a franchise brand as a franchisor for up to 10 times or more cash flow, which is pretty incredible. So either way, I'm happy to help you.
Yeah, that's great. And I thank you. This has been really good, eye-opening for me, just considering like thinking big picture, like down the road, like, all right, what is the lifestyle we want to have? How do we do that? What pieces need to be a part of it? And I think franchising is one of the viable options and ways to do that too.
It absolutely is. It shocks people all the time. They have no idea when I speak to them. They're like, well, I thought, and I was like, well, it's understandable why you thought that. That seems to be what's out there. But the reality is, I mean, I have people that buy home care franchises and then come back a few years later and buy something else. You know, and
invest back.
It's too easy for the right individual that is looking to trust the process and follow a system. And you know, look, there were a lot of people that worked hard in the corporate world. Half my business are what I call corporate refugees, and the other half are people that, you know, call it the diesel mechanic, or people that have a skill that are tired of doing that and are looking in the mirror saying, I have abilities that are far beyond what I'm currently doing.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's so cool, just a vast ability for multiple types of people to become franchise owners. And with the investment, so you put in the investment, some people might be like, well, how fast will I be able to pay for that investment? Because obviously you have a monthly, you know, debt you have to pay through that investment. And so is there a quick turnaround that people usually start seeing, or is there a gap, a lag type in there?
Such a great question, Chris. I didn't cover that. I'm glad you brought it up. You know, I have a franchise that's a real estate related franchise that's very low cost and home based, and they're doing incredibly well. In fact, a friend of mine just bought one of those franchises. They tout in their materials that the average franchisee gets their investment back in 120 days.
Wow.
Exactly.
The whole investment. So the whole loan, is that what you're meaning by that?
Well, in that case, that's a very low cost franchise. We're talking a $42,000 home based franchise.
Okay.
But there are others that I can tell you 8 months, I can tell you a year and a half. In most cases, there is a pretty clear average ROI that I can help them determine based on what we know. Wow. And whether some of that information is in the franchise disclosure document, or it's discovered within the validation stage with existing franchisees. I have a gentleman buying massage franchise, and he's in the very final stages. He's already decided on the brand. He's working his business plan, and that further is going to answer your question. He's in for financing now, and based on his pro forma that he was, you know, we helped create. The finance folks are like, okay, that's good, or not. Maybe it's too rosy, or it's, you know, maybe it's too conservative, whatever it might be. But you know, those are things that we help people through in the process to make sure they're, you know, they're not crazy.
Gotcha.
And to make sure things line up. But at the end of the day, the finance groups just want to make sure you're covering, you know, your P&L and your pro forma backs up your plan. So if you have no money and you're giving your absolute last dollar to get into a franchise, it's not going to work, because there's something that's called post-closing liquidity.
Okay.
You know, it's like buying a house. If you're closing on a house and you've taken absolutely everything, well, how are you going to make your first mortgage payment?
Right.
You know, I mean, we hope you still have a job. Well, in franchising, sometimes people are giving up a job to jump into a franchise. So you just need to have some cash to live on and working capital in order to pay yourself and pay your household bills until you're cash flowing.
Okay. Which that, I mean, that cash flow could start when it varies, probably months to
it varies
months. And
okay. It varies. But again, I won't, based on the first phone call with somebody, I can kind of size up pretty quickly which brands to gear people to.
Okay.
We need to get them results quickly if that's what they need. It just depends. It depends on the brand.
Yeah, because I mean, you think if you start with a low investment franchise and you're having a low, like, quote unquote mortgage, a low payment per month for that investment, you get cash flow starting there. You get that one kind of working, and you're having a positive cash flow. Then you can have that next one you're already kind of primed
Mhm.
for that next franchise if you wanted to kind of invest into another one, because now you have the cash flow coming in and it can kind of build on itself.
That's a perfect example. And a friend of mine owns 20 Great Clips hair salons, and he started with one.
Yeah,
and that's how he did it.
gotcha.
Like you
That's
described.
really cool. That's awesome. So this has been, yeah, I love it. I love these kind of things. Just get my mind, all the gears turn in my head, like the possibilities for people out there.
We need a part 2.
Yeah, we could definitely do that for sure. So this was fantastic, and I'm curious, and you might not be able to say, so that's completely, I understand. What would you say is the hardest franchise to become a part of?
Well, I it might not be the answer you expect, but the hardest franchise, restaurants are still incredibly popular, and my expertise is certainly in the restaurant business. Restaurants are still the hardest.
Really?
And the reason they're the hardest is there's more ways to lose money in a restaurant than make money. Whether it's cash that people can take, or food can spoil, or the customer service, somebody, there's a bad shift. You're not there. There's a bad shift, and your staff is giving bad customer service, or you're short somebody and bad reviews go online and it hurts your business. It could be an amazing business, and I love it. But there are people that aren't cut out for it. And every one of your listeners or viewers certainly knows this. They've been in a restaurant before and they wonder, who the heck hired these people? Why is everything taking so long? Why is that, So there's just people that aren't cut out for the restaurant business, but so many people want to be in it.
Interesting. Is there a sector of restaurant that does better than others, like seafood or whatever?
Well, chicken is the hottest segment of the restaurant business today. Chicken is flying off the charts. Pun intended. No, but the fast casual segment. But if you want food, chicken, yes, chicken is the hottest.
Okay.
But the fast casual segment, which are these smaller restaurants, where typically it's like counter service and food's delivered to you, or at least you order at the counter, whether it's Five Guys or Panera Bread, things like that. I have an amazing brand called Rachel's Kitchen that's a local Vegas concept, just like that. But fast casual is incredibly hot. It's been hot for years and will continue to be hot because people want to just get great food, take it to go, get it delivered, whatever it might be. The big casual dining restaurants really suffered, obviously, through the pandemic due to certain restrictions and having a big building to pay rent on. But at the end of the day, the big restaurants will still do well if they are a great concept, because people still want that dining experience, even if it's casual. Even if it's casual, and fast food will just never go anywhere. People want convenience, and even some of my friends and family are lazy and they don't even want to do online orders. They just see a drive-through and boom, they go through Popeyes or go through whatever drive-through, because that's instant gratification. You don't have to do anything. Wait in a drive-through, play on your phone at the same time, and read a book, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. That's a good, I wouldn't have guessed restaurants, but again, I don't know a whole lot about it. So, Lance, again, thank you so much for being on today and sharing all this about franchising and how to get into it. And, just got my gears running, turning. I'm thinking now what I need to do going forward. But, before we do kind of wrap up, and I know you mentioned your website and everything already, but, the question I kind of ask my guests, has to do with the fifth trait of pencil leadership. And that is that we were all created uniquely with a purpose to leave a positive mark on the world in our own unique way. So when everything is said and done for you here on earth, what do you hope your positive mark is?
Well, for me, it's kind of easy, and you won't be surprised. My legacy is all about leadership and all about launching businesses and teaching people. I am the franchise launch boss, but what goes hand in hand with that, I represent quite a few independent brands as well. But it's not just the franchises. I have dealers and distributor models and all different things, but it's all about teaching people how to launch a business, because anybody can do it. You just got to find the right one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great mark you're leaving. You're helping a lot of people, which ripple effects out. And so thank you for that. And where can people find you? I know you said ionfranchising.com.
I'm on
Anywhere else?
Instagram.
Okay.
I'm on everything. So
Awesome.
LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Ion Franchising, or Lance Graulich. Either way, happy to talk to anyone that's interested.
Cool. Well, awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being on Pencil Leadership today.
Chris, you're awesome. Talk to you soon.
Awesome. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in, listening to this on whatever platform you're listening to it on. If it resonated with you, share this, get it out in front of more people who are looking for a way to start their own business, franchise. When you share, when you subscribe to the podcast, you're helping us leave a positive mark on the world. So thanks for being a part of that. And until next time, let's go out